Hello and welcome back to the Long Live Rock and Roll podcast. The Solo, a single performer showing off his or her musical talent and skill, adding an interesting alternative part to a song's structure and potentially giving the audience a passage of music unlike what the rest of the song entailed. Whether it's a short but sweet 8 bars or an extended showcase that takes the listener on a long journey, a lot can be said in a short space of time with a talented human operating their instrument at the highest level. Joining me to discuss solos is my co-host, Mr. Felipe Amorim. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Hope everyone's okay. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Not bad, not bad. I'm excited for today because it's the essentially the start of a new topical discussion point that we're doing, isn't it? We're going to talk through some iconic solos. And now the little asterisk that comes with this is that they may be iconic to us, so we really like them. And so what we're gonna do with these, it's almost a bit like our covers versus originals episode. We're going to take two what I think generally would be considered iconic guitar solos, or actually not even necessarily guitar. We're going to take 2 iconic solos that everyone knows what they sound like, everyone knows how they go, and then we'll probably chuck in 1 or 2 more, maybe some off the radar ones or some of our personal favorites. But yeah, looking forward to it. So should we get stuck in? Yeah. What do you want to do first? Which one?
Well, I actually want to make a disclaimer from the beginning. So
okay, go on then.
So when we're talking about like especially guitar solos, right? You have a drummer and a bassist discussing guitar solos here. So yeah.
Oh, look at this rhythm section. They think they're so good.
No.
What do they know?
What I want to say is I personally have no intention of debating which is the most technical, the most elaborate, or the most relevant guitar solo in history, or the top 10 guitar solos. I think what we're doing here, we're picking some stuff that we like listening to and like our favorite solos. So because that's the one thing I'm not quite keen to do is when you see people like, top 10 albums of all time. No one is going to agree with that. I rather that journalists who do that, my favorite top 10, like my top 10 albums.
It tells me more about you.
Yeah, exactly.
When I find out your top 10.
That's a good point.
With the solos, it's a great point because
it is.
Everyone will have a different favorite solo, but that's why we've gone with the title iconic, because there are iconic solos straight off the top. You think Freebird, Stairway to Heaven, Sweet Child of Mine, just these ones, and these are the ones that we're going to discuss because they are important to rock and rock music. But as well, why can't we throw in some of our favorites as well? Because that tells the audience, that tells you guys about us as musicians and as fans. But don't worry, you'll get your fix of standard rock guitar solos.
Yeah, we also want people to tell us which solos they want us to talk about. That would be great.
Definitely, yeah, excellent. So, disclaimer done. What one do you want to kick off with?
Well, there's an interesting thing about the whole concept of solo, right?
Yeah.
Solo, the word means on your own, isn't it? That solo means alone. It's just you.
Yeah.
Which is not entirely true in music. A soloist is someone who is taking the lead on that specific part of the song and playing the main melodic line of that specific part of the song. Normally, the singer is doing that for most of the song. And then when the singer stops singing and there's an instrumental bit, you might have a guitar solo, piano solo, keyboards, or even drums. Which a drum solo is designed to give the band time to go and grab a drink, really. But anyway, so when you have the solo with a band, is a complete different thing than a musician playing on their own.
Yeah,
which at least in one of the examples we're going to give today actually happens. Someone playing on his own. Anyway,
what do you think? I mean, because I agree with most of what you said. The only thing I'd say I disagree with is that you said that if a guitar solo comes, it takes over the melodic passage that a singer would normally have. But do you not feel that a solo is it is actually a lot more showing off and showing what talent you have?
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Compared to just taking over the singer's job for...
Exactly, yeah, but you would say, yeah, makes sense. There's a lot of like, showing off and displaying your skills to the audience or whatever. Also, it can be the part of the song you do something that is impressive, and also is the part of a song that you can do something that's completely different and unexpected because no one knows how someone is going to do a solo. Guys like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd and Slash from Guns N' Roses. they actually write solos that belong to the song. They're part of the composition. And Slash was really clear about this in many interviews, that he never wanted a solo to be like a show-off bit of song. He wanted it to be part of the composition. Yeah,
interesting.
And it makes sense, because the way he solos is like, it is obviously the guitar gets all the attention when he's doing it, but it's a melody. He doesn't improvise much, and some of his solos is a proper composition. But yeah, I think there's like cases where the solo is designed for the guitarist to pretty much play everything they can do in a few bars. But I think there's a cool concept of soloing with a band and literally solo on your own. Any instrument can play on their own. You can stop the whole band, and then you have a bass solo, drum solo, guitar solo without any backing instruments, or you can solo on top of the groove and the chords. And those are different concepts. I think it's different to play on their own and play with a band. And I'm saying this because we're actually going to discuss two solos that have these two contexts, isn't it?
Let's start with the one that is that goes more for the solo branch, right? So the first song we're going to do today is Led Zeppelin's Heartbreaker from Led Zeppelin 2. And I'm actually in a fortunate position today of having the vinyls for every one of the songs we're doing.
So talking about showing off.
There you go. So yeah, from Led Zeppelin 2. Do you know what? I don't think it's often we have albums. I know the last few we've done, I've actually had the albums, haven't I?
Yeah, and I've got the album.
Slave, Crimson King.
I've got all of the albums.
I never get to show them. So now that we're doing a bunch of episodes where I have them, we've got to do it. But anyway,
I'm really jealous of your vinyl collection, man. You got so many good records.
So we start off with Heartbreaker from Led Zeppelin 2 by the band Led Zeppelin, 1969, and the guitarist is Jimmy Page. Kick us off.
Well, Jimmy Page, he was in an interesting position with the band. I think he's the one who could claim he had the right to have a whole minute in a song on his own. Jimmy Page was the band leader, the producer, the guy who put the money into the project from the beginning. He was responsible for Led Zeppelin's journey to success. Really, everyone in the band had a big share of that responsibility, of course, and merit for that. But he was the leader of the band, and pretty much all the way to the end. And he had a long experience as a session musician, studio musician, recording for different artists, some big names, and he knew exactly what a song needed. So if he was working for someone as a session musician, he wouldn't play that solo. So Jimmy Page knew how to serve a song, play what a song needed. But in that song, well, after the success of the first album, which I believe went #1, American, the UK, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I think it went America,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
And so you were internationally famous at that point. You know how good you are. Just play a solo, play the solo you want to play. I think that solo, it's him saying, this is me as a guitar player, regardless of how good the band is or how good the band makes me sound. This is me on my own. And that's what I'm saying. That's a solo in the true sense of the word. There's no one playing with him when he takes a solo. And it's a beautiful thing in terms of arrangement, because a solo connects to completely different sections of the song. So it goes into a complete different groove, and it goes back to the verse at the end. But the way he builds that structure of the song is like, okay, we've played, we told a story to this point. The band stops. I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to start a really heavy, fast riff that is going to lead into an explosive ending for a song. And I think the solo, regardless of what he plays, the way the song was structured is really, really clever, and allowed him the right amount of time in the right part of the song to do what he did. And I believe he did an amazing job on that solo. I think it's quite impressive. It's 1969, you've got to consider that, before all the shredding stuff that we've heard from the 80s and up to this day, before Richard Blackmore was, in the spotlight with Deep Purple, and a lot of impressive guitar playing hasn't happened up to this point.
Yeah, that's good point. Yeah. Everything you said is great. I think the one part I agree with you at, I agree with with everything you've said, but the part I agree with most is that this solo serves as the centerpiece of the song, doesn't it? It feels like the song builds up to that moment, has its moment with the solo, and then afterwards we just kind of get the outro, which is fine. The outro doesn't need to be as epic as the solo, but I feel like it really does serve as the centerpiece. The song builds to this moment. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, yeah, it's almost like he made that solo the most important part of the song. And if you don't know the song and listening to it for the first time, you can't see that coming.
We've got for, as usual, listeners and viewers, the playlist for this episode is in the show notes below. So if you're on YouTube, read the description. If you're on Apple or Spotify or any other podcast platform, just go to the show notes, click the link, and you'll go to the playlist that will have all these songs in, plus a few extras that we stick in. If we mention it, it will be in the playlist. So go and have a listen to the songs so you know exactly what we're talking about. But yeah, it's a and as you mentioned, the one thing I want to pick up on what you said is that it's 1969. This is a very much a pioneering solo. You've got intricate skills in the fast runs, the bends he does, hammer-offs and pull-ons. So for non-guitarists, a hammer-on is where I think I've done this before. I'll just get the guitar. The guitar's out of tune, so don't bank on this. But hammer-on is where you... I know, is where you play a note and then you hammer it on after. So it's... You play the note and then you hammer it on.
Yeah, basically the second note is not being played by the right hand. You're not strumming the second note.
And the same goes with this other technique called a pull off. So you play the note and then you pull it off like that. So for viewers, you can see it. Listeners, you'll have to listen. But yeah, that's the premise of those. And these things, to the level he was doing them, weren't very... I'd probably say the word popular at the time. They weren't popular because these were...
They were part of solos. They were not the highlight of solos, isn't it? It's like he emphasized those techniques.
Yeah.
He made them more clear. It's in your face. Also, no one else is playing at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I think you've also got the massive blues influence in the solo, haven't you? I mean, even just at the end of his... It's hard because there's two sections of the solo, isn't there? There's the solo, and then there's the band solo where they join in after. But the part between the solo and the band solo, he does that little... The very bluesy.
It's a classic blues lick. He ends the solo. It's like that. He shows his blues roots right at the end of it. So there's an interesting thing because all those there's two techniques you've mentioned. It means you can get a sound out of the guitar without using the hand that holds the plectrum. So it could be in his case, right hand is a right-handed guitar player. So he's only playing on the fretboard for a good bit of that solo. So it's only the left hand doing the job. And he would make that clear live. He would hold the guitar above his head and play with left hand only. Yeah. So you can see that his right hand is just holding the guitar and he's playing with one hand. Obviously, that's visually quite impressive. It has been done a million times by loads of guitar players, but you've got to consider that in 1969. That's quite impressive. So basically, when we're talking about the most technical elements of it, and then a bluesy ending, he's combining like complex skills with the simplicity of the blues, and I love that.
I'm going to take what you said just to a sort of a different level, where the techniques he's playing require good technique, rigidity, solid technical precision. Yeah. The blues stuff is way more improvised, off the cuff, a bit different. It's a bit you don't have to commit to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, and also like you're bending the strings, like for how much do you do of that? How much bending do you do? Like, and for how long is that note going to last for? Yeah, that is the interpretation of those phrases. It's really it's really much more about feeling than technique. Yeah. Don't get me wrong; it's not technically easy to do any of that. But the thing is, it's that I think there's a lot of your personality as a musician when you're playing anything bluesy, because then you have to make it your own.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of that of the bluesy stuff, and as I said, more technical things. Also, some of the live versions of that solo, there's classical music and there's country as well, a little bit. If you listen to How the West Was Won, which is the 1972 album,
yeah, that's already in the
not
playlist.
Released at the time, it was released later on. He plays some country licks Really cool stuff.
And in our opinion, it's this. I think you and me agree. We think it's the best Zeppelin album, the live one, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
so underrated. No one goes on. I mean, Song Remains the Same is amazing, but How the West Was Won is them at their absolute peak. Anyway, that's another episode. You mentioned about how important it was for the time, 1969, because we got this just sort of contextually to summarize it. You got the blues boom happening and the British invasion with the American blues artists coming over to Britain and touring and sort of bringing over some of the blues, John Mayall and his Blue Breakers. This is all going on the end of the 50s into the 60s. And as the 60s progress, we see a lot more of a blues rock influence, and rock gets heavier and harder. And then in 69, you got Zeppelin with their first couple of albums, which in a sense pioneered what we call hard rock. So this is a key moment, as you said, because the second Led Zeppelin album, 1969, hard rock is blooming and ready to go. And we're getting the example of it here. So direct quote, "I think I got the idea of tapping watching Jimmy Page do his Heartbreaker solo back in 71. Eddie Van Halen." So Van Halen directly has said the Heartbreaker solo from Jimmy Page, this is what got me doing tapping. And for listeners, it will be in the playlist. I'm just going to add it right now, is Eruption. So that was Eddie Van Halen talking about his guitar track, Eruption, which we all know. I mean, that's definitely going to be on this episode one day, isn't it? The iconic solos. But that is him saying that, yeah, my influence for Eruption, Jimmy Page on Heartbreaker. So that's a massive point on that as well. That's literally a direct inspiration. But I was actually on Reddit doing some research.
That's a place where you can actually get, you can get stuck there for hours.
Well, I love it because I find Reddit compared Instagram and Facebook, I tend to not generally like the people on there. They're very what's the word? I've forgotten the word. Judgmental. People aren't willing to have a discussion on Facebook and Instagram.
There's some of the social media stuff seems to be designed for people to clash instead of debating, instead of just
and I find that with Facebook and Instagram, but with Reddit, you're often able to have a much nicer debate. But anyway, someone posted on the Led Zeppelin subreddit about the Heartbreaker solo, saying, "How hard is it to play?" And I remember reading one of the comments, and someone said, "It's not hard to play technically, but you won't sound like Jimmy because Jimmy is his own sound." And one of the comments that actually was praising the solo, if you can believe it, had the words sloppy and emotional. But they're right. And this is the next part I want to talk about this solo. There's even, the initial bends he does when he does it, but that's unagreeable. That's dissonant. That's not very nice to the ear. From 2 minutes 15 to 2 minutes 30, he's playing some fast stuff, but he's not hitting all the notes. There are mistakes.
No, some of the notes.
There are some bum notes.
He's missing some. Yeah, he missed some of the notes. Yeah.
But then he obviously the rest of the solo is lovely, and even that part is great because it's authentic. That is Jimmy Page putting himself into his solo.
Yeah.
Mistakes.
Robert Plant said a few times that they would always go for the take with the right feeling, the right feel for the album, not the take that was best executed.
Yeah,
and that's a really, really big difference. And I'm pretty sure he did loads of takes for that solo.
Oh, really?
Why is he picking? I'm pretty sure he did. The album has got so many overdubs and is being recorded in different studios across America because they were touring. You got to consider that.
Oh, yeah, we did that. That was our second. For anyone who's a fan of Led Zeppelin 2, this was the second episode we ever did, or the third one. So yeah, go back and check it out right at the beginning. But yeah, no, good point. Anything else you want to talk about regarding this solo?
I think when people discuss the when they say it's sloppy and some of the notes are not quite there, I've heard guys who can play better kind of stuff. 1969, this man and his Les Paul playing the guitar on its own for about 1 minute, I would say, in the studio.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like the song is more of the song is a solo than it is
exactly. It's groundbreaking. It's like it hasn't been done in that way before. So yeah, that's what I have to say.
But the only other part I want to add about this solo is that how great he is on his own, how brilliant Page is when he does his thing, but then it maintains the same level of quality when the band come in.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Where just they come in with their rhythm, he hangs on some chord bends to give the space to the rhythm section to come back in and prepare, and then when they're in, he just goes off on it again, and it's brilliant.
It really prepares for the riff that comes after, and the groove, and he carries on soloing on top of that. But and the fact that it's being recorded in probably different days in different cities, it makes it even more impressive that it has such a solid sequence of ideas.
Good
I really like it.
We've actually played this song, didn't we, when we played with Jack Hutchinson? It was really fun to play because, I mean, it's a jam sort of song, and you just let the guitarist go off. You let the guitarist go off and do their thing. And Jack was always a good soloist, so it was great to hear with the ideas he came up with. But although
you've got to do that with a Les Paul, it's one of those solos that the sound of it is so iconic.
You can't do it with a flying V. But the one other thing is that the How the West Was Won, that version of it. Did you notice he plays a bit of Bach?
Yeah.
I thought the funny thing is that you kind of read sloppy and emotional, and what as amazing as the solo is, it is sloppy in places. And then when he tries to play Bach, you're like, right, now the word sloppy comes out, because if there's one thing about classical music and Bach, it's not sloppy. So when you've got a blues musician trying to play Bach's music, you're like, okay, now I know why you stuck to the blues and rock, which is nothing.
But it's super cool though. I like it.
Oh no, it is very
But it does show that his influences were not only the predictable influences for rock musicians. He was into classical music and in country, and then there's a lot of stuff there. And I think he managed to quote most of his influences in one solo, which is really cool.
And then they all do it, don't they? They do it in Dazed and Confused. They've got 20 minutes to do that, haven't they? The live versions, so everyone can get their influence in. But anyway, we need to do another Zeppelin album soon. I haven't listened to Zeppelin in a while, I have this thing where I kind of go through a cycle of bands. Like I love Frank Zappa, but I could easily go 6 months without listening to him because it's quite in-your-face music. And it's the same with Zeppelin. I've been quite into metal the last few months, and Zeppelin haven't really had a look in. So I'll have to do another one soon. On to the next solo. So actually, I chose the Heartbreaker one. And this is the solo you chose. This is Sultans of Swing from the album Alchemy, Dire Straits Live by Dire Straits from 1984.
Oh, you've got the album.
Yep. I said this is the one. I've got all the albums for this episode, which is why I'm showing off.
I honestly thought you had the studio version of it.
No, the live one as well.
It's a double vinyl, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's gorgeous, and it's a great album as well. And we did a Dire Straits episode before.
We did Brothers in Arms.
I'd say immediately, just because I haven't listened to their expansive work, they're sort of nowhere near my favorite band. But the Brothers in Arms album I thought was really good, but the live album, wow, that's another level. That is a band. It's almost like Peter Frampton, one where the whole band is on and you're giving really good music to the audience. But anyway, this isn't an album review. This is a solo review. You have to give us a chance, listeners and viewers. This is our first time doing solos, so we'll have to we'll try and rein it in how much we love the songs. But I'll kick off with this one then. Yeah, Sultans of Swing.
Please.
Wow. Put it that way. Wow. Really, really amazing solo. The first thing is there's three, isn't there? There's like three solos. One at the
I think I said to you, listen from like 4.5
There's one right at the beginning of the song. There's one about 3 minutes in, which is way shorter. And then there's one at about 4 minutes 45, I think it starts. But then that goes to the end of the song. And they're all brilliant. They're all amazing. And what I loved about the first one, as in the solo right at the start of the song, same thing as Jimmy Page. There's fuck ups. There's bum notes, but it doesn't stop the.
He was recording live with the band, isn't it?
That's another level. Yeah, he's live, but it doesn't stop the momentum of the song and the solo. And that goes more so with the third solo, which is the one we're going to talk about. Now, what I loved about this is how in the first sort of 30 seconds of it, you go through such a dramatic change of styles, techniques. I'd say styles and techniques just in the first 30 seconds. But the solo never feels like it's okay, he's trying to do something like this now. All right, now he's trying to do this. Each section goes beautifully one into the other. So I did some timestamps because I found it amazing. So you got the solo 2 kicks off at 4:45, at 4 minutes 50, the incredible speed he does with
without a plectrum, by the way.
That's all fingerpicked, isn't it?
Fingerpicked.
Amazing.
And I think Mark Knopfler and Jeff Beck were my favorite guitarists in that sense. The ones who don't play with a plectrum and get their own unique sound. I think
through the finger picking. Yeah,
he's the one.
5 minutes and 2 seconds. You've got the bends where I can't remember how exactly, but the bends. Then 5 seconds after, I love it, man. He does this sort of staccato thing. Where he goes, and it comes out of nowhere and it takes you by surprise. And when you first
very country,
and then after that 5 minutes 20, he does blues for a bit, for about 10 seconds, and then 5 minutes 28, he goes full country. But all of these elements, I've just pinpointed one occasion where I've noticed they were there, but all of them, speed, bends, staccato, blues, and country, they all come back and forth. It'll be blues, country, speed, staccato, country, blues, bends. He'll mess it up and just go everywhere. Mess it up as in mix it up and take the song everywhere. But it flows from passage to passage and from little 5 seconds here, 5 seconds there. The transition between them is amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, I think it has a natural kind of a flow from the beginning to the end.
Yeah,
it's interesting to think about how the solo evolved from the original one. And it's an interesting thing because you said there's loads of solos in the song. I see this song basically as a conversation between vocals and guitar, because throughout the whole song he would sing a line and then play a short phrase before the next line comes in. So is that a solo, or is that just a lick, a phrase?
I'd call it a lick.
So it's a lick, but basically it feels to me that Mark Knopfler is preparing you for a solo from the beginning. It's like the guitar wants to speak louder than everything else.
It's caged. It's waiting to get out.
I want to do something more of it. Wait a minute, let me sing. And it keeps going. And at the studio version at the end, the most iconic part of this solo is a really fast phrase. It plays right at the end when the song is about to start fading out. And what I love about this live version is that he's preparing for that part. Everyone who's listened to the album, went to the gig, they were probably thinking, here we go, he's gonna play that phrase, he doesn't go for it, and he takes the song somewhere else, and you think, whoa, wait a minute, he's gonna do it at some point, and he keeps going to complete different unpredictable directions. And at the very end, when that phrase comes in, is like a relief. It's like oh my god, I've been waiting for this. Even though I've been waiting for this, I enjoyed everything that happened whilst I was waiting for it. And it's so good. It's so good. And he just builds up and up. And that's a
great part.
Yeah, it's right at the end, isn't it? The studio version of it, he plays that phrase, which it's almost like a loop. He changes the notes, but it's the same rhythm. And then he goes on and on into he goes on, and the song is fading out, and that's it.
I think I was going to say that you mentioned repeating sections, and I think that's something he does so well in this solo, because everything you hear you've heard before in terms of the context of the song. The part that really wowed me was when at 6 minutes they start slowing down, or not slowing down, but the dynamics come way down. The guitar cuts out as he stops playing for a bit, and for about 30 seconds he just leaves it. He just leaves the crowd to chant and clap, and the rhythm section to sort of build, establish a sort of bass. Then at 6 minutes 56, you've got those soft, sweet melodies coming back in. He's just messing around a bit before, but then he establishes them. Then from about 7 minutes 30 onwards, he just plays the same passage again and again, but he speeds it up a little bit every time. And then
you have the band kind of following that thing.
Building up, getting higher and higher and bigger and louder and louder. And then about, I think I've got 8 minutes 20 here, hits them both together, and he's there. And then it goes off again on another solo, just like at the start. I think you and me know this because we we emphasized when we were playing. Often we played in trios. We played a few trios together, didn't we? And we knew how important it was, us doing our jobs, that if the guitarist is soloing, we've got to complement it. We can't just be there playing the chords, because it's just so easy and you're not really doing anything. If excuse me, if we see the guitarist start putting more energy in or playing faster, we'll play a bit harder and faster. If he's playing a certain section that sort of brings it down a bit, we'll back off a bit. And in this song as well, the rhythm section, tight, organized, established, knew their jobs before doing it. And
but hats off to Terry Williams, who was the drummer who joined the band not long before the recording of this album.
Really? You think this rhythm section were playing together? You think they've been playing together for years?
I don't know if the album was done in the beginning of a tour or in the middle of a tour, whatever, but they've probably played quite a few nights together. But that's the first album with this drummer.
But this is what I'm saying. It feels like years.
Complete different drummer from the one that did the first album. That's very jazzy. He's a rock drummer. He hits really hard, and then it took the song into a different direction. So what I find really nice about the way the band interacts with the guitar on this one is like, you have Mark Knopfler as the leader playing a melody, because it's really melodic. So sometimes he would play really fast and play all the country licks and shred a little bit, let's put it like that. And then when he's playing the most melodic bits, the band would just follow. What I think is completely different if compared to Heartbreaker, where you have a whole section of just guitar. In this case, the band is essential to the final result of this solo, because they go up and down, and they get busier or quieter according to whatever the guitarist is doing. So and if you watch the video, the lights are also amazing. See, like the whole show is prepared for that moment to be really special. And I think they did a phenomenal job, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a few parts here which just shows. I mean, Mark Knopfler was a hugely well-renowned guitarist for his. I mean, but everything he's known for is shown off in this solo.
Yeah.
His expressive phrasing when he's playing this song, and he's got all those melodies. It's like the guitar's singing, isn't it? It's like it's just singing to you. The melodies are so beautiful. Yeah. You've got the fingerstyle technique, as you said before, where just this intricate. It's almost country style, isn't it? It is country style.
Well, a lot,
finger picking, The fingerstyle being utilized amongst many other techniques as well. But on top of all that, you've got the technicality of his fingerstyle. You've got the beautiful, soulfulness of the melodies, but then he improvises as well.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like there's a section where he's like, all right, I've done this melody before. I'm going to do 4 bars of this, and then 4 bars of something else. And you can just hear it when he starts going into like just those sections where he's not really following a path. No. He's just improvising it. And I think those 3 aspects are key to this solo: the expressive phrasing, the fingerstyle technique, and his improvisational flair, whatever you want to call it. That makes this solo.
And the song ends up being twice as long as the album version.
Are you complaining?
Because of the solo.
I'm not.
It doesn't get boring.
No, not at all. Actually,
that's why I picked this one. I'll tell a story about that, because I was in doubt about this one and Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd.
Okay.
Which we've got to cover at some point.
I guess we know what's coming next then.
Yeah. No, I was kind of in doubt. I'm going to choose one of those solos. And when I was thinking about it, I was getting off the train, the Underground, in Hammersmith, where this album was recorded.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe the gods are giving me a sign.
It was what venue was it in Hammersmith?
It's
the Apollo or the Odeon.
The Apollo is the Apollo, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. But yeah, man, that's so appropriate. Yeah. Like, you know what, Hammersmith, I got to do it,
because the venue's got a different name now. It's on. I think a different name now.
So yeah, it's live at the Hammersmith Odeon. But that's what it was in '84. Maybe that's the Hammersmith Apollo now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think yes, that's what it is. Yeah. So
anyway,
so that venue. So basically, I was getting off the train. I looked at Hammersmith sign. I said, "All right, that's it then. Dire Straits."
now, if you were getting off at Battersea, then then maybe that's the Pink Floyd one. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to Come to Move On, don't you guys worry. Excellent. Right, so now this brings us to the final song we're going to do, and this is the one that we're going to try and make a little less obvious, a little less what everyone would deem iconic, and a bit more of why we think it should be. Having said all that, I'm going to play devil's advocate and question Felipe about his decision on this one. It's very interesting.
Was I biased or not?
Oh, a little bit. We'll see. So the third and final track for this episode is The End from Abbey Road by the Beatles, and again, 1969. Drummer, obviously, Ringo Starr. So I'm going to play devil's advocate straight away and ask you as a drummer and, ask you, A, why is this a solo and not like a drum fill? And I think that's the main question to play devil's advocate for. Why have you considered this a solo? Why is it not just a passage, a few bars of drums?
It is a solo because, well, to start with, again, remember, solo as playing on your own. The whole band stops for this.
Yep.
And so basically you have the three songs there, Golden Slumbers, Carry That Weight, and The End, which is the last... I would say it's one long piece divided in three parts, but the last three songs that the Beatles recorded as a band. The last song of Abbey Road is Her Majesty, which is just a bit of a joke. Paul McCartney wrote 17-second song on acoustic guitar only. But so that's the last thing the Beatles recorded together as a band. And it features John, George, and Paul playing guitar solos, like exchanging guitar solos. So basically, I think it was them trying to reference the beginnings of the band when the three of them were playing guitar in the band, and they would take solos and play long solos live and stuff. They do that, but at the beginning, just before those solos, they give Ringo his time to shine. So like, you got to play. There's 8 bars on your own, and it's a solo because one, he's playing on his own, and second, a drum fill normally would last for a bar, if so. Most drum fills are short, 1 beat, 2 beats, which is like half of a bar. So you use drum fills to connect parts of a song. Yeah, that's what this one specifically does. It connects parts of the same song, but it's too long for me to be considered just a drum fill. And then you have the rhythmic ostinato, which is this one pattern that repeats itself. In that case, is the bass drum, the kick drum is like keeping time throughout the whole solo, and he plays the other drums on top of it with loads of space and dynamics. That's what is great about it. Like, what I mean, space. Like, he would play just that kick drum for a bar, and at the end of that bar, there's something coming on the floor tom or one of the toms. So it's playing phrases using space. It lets you breathe. And most of those phrases start in kind of unpredictable parts of the bar. It's not a solo that you would naturally just go and play just like Ringo. And I've sent you a link. I'm pretty sure you're going to put it on the episode description, which it's Chris Whitten, who played drums for Paul McCartney, and Greg Bissonette, who currently plays with Ringo Starr's All-Star band. They both playing this solo in unison, and if you watch it, you're going to see something that is really curious about it. Most of the phrases start with the left hand. So anyone who played drums or attempted to play drums, if you're right-handed, you play the hi-hat, those two cymbals that together in the stand. So those, you play the hi-hat with the right hand if you're right-handed. You might play with the left hand if you're left-handed. But Ringo, he said this in many interviews, he was a left-handed drummer playing as a right-handed drummer. So he would play, a right-handed drummer normally naturally plays hi-hat with the right hand and snare with the left. Some left-handed drummers play like that, some of them play the other way around. But he was playing that as a right-handed drummer most of the time. But his drum fills, when he goes for the toms and move around the kit, he said he would start most of them from the left hand, which is very unusual because a normal drum fill goes from the left to the right side of the drum kit, which means you lead with your right hand. And he would lead the fills with his left hand, and very often start the fill from the floor tom, which is the biggest drum on the right side of the kit. So he's, for anyone who plays drums, he's playing like the other way around. He's just starting from the end, if that makes any sense. And so when you look at that, anyone who plays drums looks at that, you see that you have these guys. If I'm not wrong, the two drums I mentioned, they're right-handed, and they play in those phrases starting from the left hand, which is unusual, but there's no other way to do it if you want to sound like Ringo in that solo. So that solo, those 8 bars, again, just like we said about Heartbreaker, that's Ringo, and no one can sound exactly like that. It has to do with his with the fact he's a left-handed player in a right-handed kit. It has to do with his musical influences. His swing is not very straight. The song is quite straight in terms of rhythm, but he swings a lot over that solo. And there's, as I said, a lot of dynamics, and he brings the band back in. He builds up for the band. I think it's drum solos. I'm a drummer, and I have to say drum solos tend to be quite boring. We're talking about showing off. Most of the time you hear a drum solo, it has no musical context for it. It's just like let the drummer, give the drummer some. Famous phrase that people say for drummers when they're soloing. And most of the time it's just about let the drummer show off for a bit.
But this one does it really well.
There's a bit of that, but it's a lot of, here's an interesting percussion part.
Yeah, it's much less about showing off, much more about the groove, the speed, the tempo of the song. But you're right, man. I was just playing devil's advocate earlier. It is I'd say it is a solo. It's short, it's sweet, it's impactful, and a moment to shine for Ringo in a band with 3 other people who all shone in their own different ways. Excuse me. Unless Ringo decided to go prog, he was never going to stand out in the Beatles, was he? Because his job was just to do the simplest things. Whilst Paul sang and had lovely melodic bass lines, George wrote some unusual songs with some quirky guitar solos. John had his own songs and some guitar solos. So Ringo never really came to the forefront of the band, but it's right. But you're right what you're saying. It's lovely that at the end, the final song of the Beatles' career, the last song they wrote together, Ringo gets his moment to shine. And it does feel so right going into that Love You groove when the rest of the band come in. Because there's also a guitar solo that comes there, isn't it?
The 3 of them are playing guitar solos.
So
it's a battle of guitars.
Right, yeah. So I see what you mean.
So that's what it is. So it's a song where everyone is showing off. Let's put it like that. But it's the first time they gave that space for Ringo to do his thing, and I think it's kind of a tribute to him. Like this guy staying here in the background, just keeping the beat for us for almost a whole decade. Now let him shine for a bit. Why not?
Ringo has always shone when he keeps it simple. And the best example, I think, and I always say, I've probably said about 10 times in this podcast, it's not about the notes you play, it's about the space you leave. As well as less is more. Those 2 quotes I think is fantastic and fantastically sum up Ringo, because what's that drum fill? Is it it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, where the drum fill is just boom,
3 hits,
boom, boom, Lucy. And you listen to rock even in the 60s and drum fills did more than that, but it just works so well. Ringo knew what he had to do with the space he was given without overcomplicating it, and I think this is another great example of Ringo doing his job fantastically. He gets a lot of shit, Ringo, doesn't he? Or he did. But I think the more people listen to the Beatles and the more people understand them, the more that you realise he was such a pivotal member.
Yeah, so many people say he wasn't that good. Yes, he was that good, and I would have that debate with.
Let's do that.
He recorded the perfect grooves for 27 number 1 songs. You don't have a number 1 song without the perfect drum beat. You simply don't. So anyone out there who's recorded grooves for 27 number 1 songs can say that Ringo is not that good.
Then you can give us your opinion on Ringo. Excellent. Cool. Right, I think that brings us to the end of the first Iconic Solos episodes. And just like the covers versus originals, I want to do this more, man. We'll see if we can do this every couple of months. It'll be really fun. Just get some of our favorite solos in. But you guys as well, we want to know, I've said the obvious ones: Freebird, Stairway to Heaven, Sweet Child of Mine. Which one of those are your favorites? Yeah, play Freebird. Hotel California. We want to know, of those favorites, what's your favorite? And of the ones that aren't that famous, what are some underrated solos that you think we'd like that we can get into and properly dissect and have a discussion on this podcast? So please let us know in the comments or get in touch with us to let us know. So anything else from you, sir?
I just want to thank everyone for being with us again, and I really enjoyed this episode. And I think, let's talk more. Let's us non-guitarists discuss the best guitar solos and best solos in general out there, because it's fun. It's a fun subject, and again, not a competition, isn't it? It's just,
as a bass player and a drummer, I feel like we're probably more qualified than a guitarist to talk about guitarist stuff. So
are guitarists qualified for anything anyway? I'm just saying.
Good old band banter. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us. As I said before, listen to the songs in the show notes below. Give us a like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or any other podcast platforms. Please go ahead and give us a review and a short couple of sentences about what you love about the show, because it really helps us fly up the charts and get seen by the right people. So thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Keep on rocking, everyone, and don't do anything.
And as usual, take care and long live rock and roll.